Aboard the Maw ship, Vrakar, 17 minutes to orbital collapse. Cut the damn seals, or we're all dead. Mason's gauntlet clamped onto the rupture line, plasma torch screeching against the alien bulkhead. The door wasn't designed to open. It was meant to fuse forever, a tomb lid bolted from the outside. Blood, resin, and something darker boiled off the cut line, filling the air with a stench like burned metal and rot. Behind him, Varys Royal Guard, to the last living Exalthera Queen, held a shard rifle one-handed, her other arm limp, bone pierced through skin. She hissed in her own tongue, translating only when Mason barked for it. They sealed her inside. They'd rather let the queen rot than let her fall into human hands. Mason spat into his helmet, visor flickering under emergency power. Too late for that. The Maw ship groaned around them, metal warping, as the orbital descent turned catastrophic. Outside, somewhere between fractured atmosphere and hostile fleet, human ships were still burning. Mason wasn't sure if anyone up there knew he was alive. Wasn't sure it mattered. This was about one thing getting her out. He kicked the half-cut panel. It gave after the third blow, hissing open like splitting cartilage. Cold mist poured out, revealing the casket. Organic, semi-living, wrapped in tendrils, pulsing faintly with biolight. Inside lay the queen, her body emaciated, her crown shattered, but her eyes open. "She's awake," Varys whispered. "No shit." Mason jammed his gauntlet into the interface port, fingers twitching as the alien system tried to rewrite his nervous system into its language. Pain spiked into his wrist, then his skull. He grinned through it. "I don't need the whole ship. Just enough to fly us out this coffin." 15 minutes to collapse. The wall split open behind them, not from the cut, but from something breaking in from the outside. A pressure breach, spraying molten atmosphere and debris into the corridor. Something clawed through the Gap Dominion warforms, six-limbed and chitin-armored, hunting the queen's scent like carrion birds. Mason didn't yell orders. Didn't need to. Varys opened fire first, even with her shattered arm, hurling shard bursts so dense they shredded the lead warform into metallic pulp. Mason slammed the casket's interface shut, hauling the entire thing onto his back. "You move, I kill," he said to the queen, who didn't answer, but her eyes burned like stars beneath a dying sky. They ran. The corridors folded into each other, alive in ways ships shouldn't be. Bulkheads flexed like muscle, the floor itself breathing underfoot. Mason's boots left prints in something that wasn't just metal. It was bone, flesh, and something alien even Varys couldn't name. "Why would your own fleet bury her here?" Mason growled as they sprinted through narrowing hallways. Varys didn't answer immediately. When she did, it was through gritted teeth. She knew too much. About the treaty. About why the war really stopped. "Yeah? Well, nobody told us." A drone hive broke open ahead, hundreds of swarm forms pouring out like liquid knives. Mason planted a breaching charge into the wall beside him, ripped the queen's casket around the corner, and triggered the blast. Half the corridor folded inward, swallowing the drones in a shriek of metal and fire. Varys grabbed his shoulder, dragging him through a side passage. Her blood left a streak behind them, dark silver against darker steel. "Human, you are insane. Only way to fly." 9 minutes to collapse. They reached the outer ring, a launch bay built for organic fighters, half of them already melted into slag by the atmosphere breach. Mason dumped the casket onto a grav sled, overriding the launch controls with brute force. Behind them, the Dominion warforms were still coming, but something else moved with them now. Something larger. Something that wore a human face. Varys froze. Mason didn't. He opened fire first, plasma bursts hammering into the figure's chest, only for the shots to burn away empty air. The figure stepped closer, body flickering between flesh and data, voice a rasping echo. Mason, you should have stayed dead. He knew that voice. Hell, he'd killed that voice 2 years ago when they burned through the first Dominion blockade. Keel. Mason's jaw tightened. They hollowed you out, didn't they? No, the figure grinned, its face warping into something half Dominion, half Mason's own reflection. They made me better. 6 minutes to collapse. The launch bay shattered under a precision strike, hull peeling open to vacuum. Mason triggered his mag boots, grabbing the Queen's casket as it started to drift. Varys floated beside him, her damaged arm useless in 0G. Keel's form flickered, splitting into multiple bodies, each one a distorted reflection of Mason's worst moments, dead crew, failed missions, every mistake worn like armor. Give her back, Keel said, voice echoing through suit comms and directly into Mason's skull. No. Mason's grip tightened. She's not yours. Varys raised her rifle, but the Queen's voice finally cut through all of it, soft but sharper than any shard round. He's right. I belong to all of you. Mason turned, staring through the translucent casket. The Queen's face was calm, but her eyes burned with something ancient. What the hell does that mean? The war didn't end. It just changed shape. 3 minutes to collapse. The Maw ship's heart ruptured behind them, a chain reaction racing toward the core. Mason slammed the grav sled's thrusters to max, blasting them out of the breach into open space, atmosphere crystallizing behind them. Keel's flickering form followed, projected directly from the Maw ship's dying systems. You think you saved her, Keel's voice sneered. But all you did was set her free. Mason didn't answer. He was too busy overriding the emergency beacon, sending one last pulse toward human space. Package secured. No safe return. Varys reached for his hand, the first time she'd touched him, without a weapon in her grip. I hope your species forgives you. Not likely. Mason smiled through bloodied teeth as the Maw ship detonated behind them, hurling them both into the void and into history. Perfect. Buckle up. I'm building this into a full-scale, 16,000-word beast split into brutal kinetic sections. Each one will hit hard, flow directly into the next, and ramp up stakes, character layers, and lore until this story bleeds HFY greatness. We're talking tactical chaos, sharp dialogue, high-stakes twists, and a finale that leaves scars. Mason's visor cracked, not from shrapnel, but from sheer overpressure. His ears rang inside the helmet, equilibrium gone. His left boot mag clamp flickered out, sending his lower half drifting free. The gravseld spiraled, end over end. Queen's casket lashed to it by a single failing tether. Varys was somewhere behind him, spinning uncontrolled, her shard rifle tumbling through space like a lost spear. Mason, her voice crackled, cutting in and out. Thrusters are fried. Just hold your breath, Mason rasped, slamming his wrist console. A manual override kicked in, redirecting power from his suit's life support into a one-time emergency burst. His body jerked forward, slamming into the grav sled, shoulder dislocating with a wet pop. The Queen's eyes flicked toward him through the casket, too calm for someone whose coffin was being dragged through hell. You're dying, she said, voice bleeding directly into his neural feed. Yeah, well, Mason's teeth clenched against the pain. That's the job. Varys caught herself against a twisted hunk of Maw ship plating, planting her feet against it and launching off with desperate precision. She slammed into Mason, both of them tumbling, her good arm wrapping around his neck in a survival grip. Your species doesn't know when to quit, she hissed. Neither does yours, Mason shot back. A pulse rippled through the debris, not from the Maw ship, but from deep space beyond. Mason's HUD scrambled, alien signatures washing over his display in unreadable glyphs. Varys's eyes widened. Even the Queen's calm expression flickered into something that might have been fear. "What the hell is that?" Mason muttered. Varys didn't answer. The Queen did. "The thing your people were never supposed to see. It was not a Dominion ship. Not human either. It didn't match any profile. Mason's tactical systems could recognize just a wedge of obsidian hull covered in sensor-disrupting material. No lights. No visible weapons. Just a presence that bent local space like a fist around a throat. "Hostile?" Mason asked, even though he knew the answer. Varys' voice was pure ice. "It's not here to negotiate." The Queen's voice bled back in. "It's here for me." "Too bad," Mason grunted, triggering the grab sled's last functional thruster. "You're not home delivery." The black ship fired nothing. It simply unfolded. Space split open, folding in on itself, and suddenly there were 3 more, identical, synchronized, moving with predatory grace. They formed a perimeter around the debris field, locking it down like a noose. "Mason," Varys said, voice tight, "there's no way out." He bared bloody teeth. "We make one.